Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Aurora Essence Healing. My name is Heather Gravlin. I am sharing a series of stories with everyone that are everything spirituality based, all my experiences since birth to now, and anything psychic, paranormal, mediumship, energy work related is what I'll be sharing for my stories. At this time, I'm going to be sharing episode number 4, and this is about, it's a little bit piggybacking off of my last story, the same time period of age, probably like elementary school age. At that time, my parents had me enrolled into the local Sunday school, catechism, after school program, church related activities, and I remember going every week, and one day, all of a sudden, I remember walking into the church and hearing, like auditorily, now this is the first time I've ever actually in my life experienced an auditory message. I was told very specifically from a woman's voice, "You are not welcome here." And I kind of like halted a little bit as I was walking into the church, and I was so confused about that. So as you know, class was going on, I was sitting there thinking like, okay, I heard that. Well, what does this mean? What is it about? So, you know, I'm like trying to pay attention, and I'm listening, and then all of a sudden I see a vision of a woman, and she is at a she is like in a wooded field, and some of the field is, you know, like grass, and it's, you know, low, and there's a house there with like a thatched sort of roof, and this woman is being, unfortunately, very innocent is what I was told, woman was being burnt at stake. So I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't really understand what that was about. I definitely realized that I needed to look more into, you know, why I had heard this and how I heard it, and, you know, who is this woman and where is it coming from? So ongoing at school, I would then go back to, you know, my intellectual brain of wanting to learn things, and I would go to the library, and I started reading anything about witch trials, anything historical that had to do with, you know, quote unquote witches, who were, you know, we all know are just innocent women that voiced opinions, and when they voiced opinions, you know, people didn't like that. Also, I believe that a lot of these women might have had psychic enlightened experiences, or that they were natural herbalist healers that could help heal their families and their friends and people in the community. And they were a huge asset to history, and so many people could have learned from these women. I do not feel like a lot of this was in any malicious intent from the information that I get. But, you know, as a kid, I had to learn about all these things. I was very interested in, you know, trying to figure out what was going on. So that really started me being, after I started reading about, you know, witchcraft and paganism and things like that, and historical things, I started really like tapping into this nature energy. And I would go, and like I said before, I would feel the trees, I would feel the nature, I would really like hone into those energies. But this was like different. This was like a soul calling. This was something that was very much engraved in me, that like, oh, you already know this stuff, is kind of how it was. And I was very young. And even though raised Catholic, my whole family's Catholic, it really didn't align with me. I would go to my teachings in my Sunday school and catechism and all that stuff, and get my first communion. but none of it actually fully resonated with me in my heart and in my mind and my body, my energy. It just felt like I was being taught something that wasn't correct for me individually. And like I had already experienced this somehow, and that it just wasn't right for me. So pretty much ongoing from that point, from that year in my life, I realized that I definitely more aligned with nature, and I aligned more with understanding of herbs and all of these things. During this time, we moved quite a bit from apartments to apartments in my, household, but this kind of like always just stuck with me, that this is a part of who I am. And after this time, I always considered myself to be Catholic and pagan at the same time. And I never really thought anything of it. And I definitely always knew that I was an herbalist. I very much understood plants somehow and all the parts of plants that could heal you. And I started making like incense and things like that as I aged and things. So, sometimes when you have these experiences, you just know like it's a part of your soul, or it's coming from somewhere that you can't explain, but you just know it about you. And, I am very blessed to know that about me, and that I will come back to this same topic of this episode in a later, in a couple later dates. So if you want to hear more about that, stay tuned for those episodes. And thank you very much for joining today. Have a wonderful time. Bye.